and health. All right. Okay. NASA picks Alabama's Rocket City for lunar lander job. And this seems to have kind of tweaked off a couple of people, but we're going to read over here. NASA picked Alabama's Rocket City on Friday to lead development of the next moon lander for astronauts. The new lunar lander, not yet built or even designed, is meant to carry an American woman and a man to the moon's south pole by 2024. Under the plan, the astronauts will depart for the surface from a small space station around the moon and return there. The three Republican members of Congress from Texas, Cruz, Cornyn, and Babin, had asked that the decision be reconsidered. Now get a load of this reason. Who was on the initial guest list was missing from the ceremony, held near a rocket test stand at Marshall 1 month after the 50th anniversary of the lunar footsteps by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Houston was one of the first words ever uttered on the moon. And Houston, the city that sent a man to the moon, should be where the lander that will once again send Americans to the lunar surface is developed, they said in a statement Thursday. We did it first. We need to do it again. Yeah, okay. A little pompous. When asked why he chose Marshall, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine explained to reporters that propulsion is a critical element of lunar landers. I would argue that when it comes to propulsion, there's no place in the world that is more experienced and better than the Marshall Space Flight Center, he said. At the same time, it is absolutely true that when you think about the module where our astronauts will be, that cannot be done without the Johnson Space Center. So they gave a nod to the center in Texas. They mentioned them. The Lunar Lander program will be led by Marshall's Lisa Watson Morgan, formerly an engineering manager. Unlike Apollo, she said, industry will be instrumental in designing the new lander and not just in building it. So there you go. Study reveals how plants adapt to rising carbon dioxide. Study of the world's tropical forest pinpoints how much water plants put back into the atmosphere compared to how much carbon they take up. Study found drier conifer forests are more efficient in their water use, which means they are adapting faster to rise in carbon dioxide than wetter conifer forests. The findings can improve the accuracy of rainfall predictions and have implications for Australia. Studies of the world tropical forests have pinpointed how much water plants put back into the atmosphere compared to how much carbon they take up, with lower rainfall linked to increased efficiency. The researchers conclude that some drier forests are acclimating 2 to 3 times faster to rising carbon dioxide than wetter conifer forests, meaning they are more efficient in their water use. These findings help explain why rainfall in the Amazon is unevenly distributed and why some regions are drying out at a faster pace. This new research provides empirical evidence that could be used to refine models of predicting current and long-term rainfall and improve the reliability of predictions. Many previous studies have observed that the water use efficiency rises with atmospheric carbon dioxide. What hasn't been clear is the rate of change. Once we focused on that, the novel patterns emerged, said one of the scientists in the study. The study showed that on average over the last century, leguminous trees, or trees that produce seeds in pods, used water more efficiently than non-legumes. Much of inland tropical and subtropical Australia is dominated by acacias, which are leguminous. While Australia lacks anything resembling an Amazon basin, it does have vast expanses of legume-dominated vegetation. We lack a serious understanding in the implications of this for our hydroclimates, says Professor Adams. Of those acacia woodlands are transpiring less water as a result of the rise in atmospheric carbon dioxide, then we have a serious job ahead to understand potential consequences for runoff and infiltration to replenish groundwater, as well as impacts on rainfall. So there you go. And now we have 2 archaeological stories to go through this morning. Thank you for bearing with me so far. I think we're going to be going over the hour and a half mark I tend to aim for. All right, early Mongolians, as promised. Here's our titular article. Humans migrated to Mongolia much earlier than previously believed. Stone tools uncovered in Mongolia by an international team of archaeologists indicate that modern humans traveled across the Eurasian steppe about 45,000 years ago, according to The date is about 10,000 years earlier than archaeologists previously believed. The site also points to a new location for where modern humans may have first encountered their mysterious cousins, the now extinct Denisovans. Zwins led excavations from 2011 to 2016 at the Tolbor 16 site along the Tolbor River in the northern Hangai Mountains between Siberia and northern Mongolia. Excavations yielded thousands of stone artifacts, with 826 stone artifacts associated with the oldest human occupation at the site. The tools resemble those found at other sites in Siberia and northwest China, indicating a large dispersal of humans across the region. These objects existed before Siberia, but not to such a degree of standardization. Interesting. The most intriguing aspect is they are produced in a complicated yet systematic way, and that seems to be the signature of a human group that shares a common technical and cultural background. That technology, known in the region as the initial Upper Paleolithic, led the researchers to rule out Neanderthals or Denisovans as the site's occupants. Although we found no human remains at the site, the dates we obtained match the age of the earliest Homo sapiens found in Siberia. After carefully considering their options, we suggest that this change in technology illustrates movements of Homo sapiens in the region. Their findings were published online in an article in Scientific Reports. Determined by luminescence dating on the sediment and radiocarbon dating of animal bones found near the tools, is about 10,000 years earlier than the fossil of a human skull cap from Mongolia at roughly 15,000 years after the modern humans left Africa. The sampling of stone tools uncovered at the Tolbor 16 site in Mongolia, with examples of long triangular bottom row left. Here we go. And double-edged blades, bottom row middle, that resemble those found at other sites in Siberia and northwest China. If any of you are interested in continuing reading it, I'm going to put this link in the chat here. So, next story. Student reveals the face of Iron-aged female druid. Whew. University of Dundee student has revealed the face of one of Scotland's oldest druids, believed to have been more than 60 years old when she died during the Iron Age. Karen Fleming, an MSc Forensic Art and Facial Identification student, has recreated the head of a woman believed to have been from Stornoway on the Isle of Lewis. 3D wax reconstruction depicts the toothless female, nicknamed Hilda, believed to have been well into her 60s, an impressive feat itself. Hilda was a fascinating character to create. Its culture from the skull. It's clear from the skull she was toothless before she died, which isn't too surprising considering the diet of folk back then. But it was impressive how long she lived. Female's life expectancy at this time was roughly 31 years. But it is now thought that living longer during the Iron Age is indicative of a privileged background. Privileged which? It's impossible to know for sure when she died, as we're unable to carbon date the skull, but assuming the information in the journal from 1833 is correct, Hilda passed away anytime between 55 BC to 400 AD and was of Celtic origin. Hilda will go on display at this year's Masters Show in one of Scotland's most exciting displays of artistic talent. More than 80 students will showcase their work during the week, which runs from Friday the 16th to Sunday the 25th of August. Hilda was created from an ancient skull held at the University of Edinburgh, trying to say it right, Edinburgh Anatomical Museum, and is described as one of the 6 druids of Hebrides, and I butchered that. Skulls presented to the Phrenological Society of Edinburgh in 1833. So there you go. And that's another video down. If you liked it, there's this. If you didn't like it, there's that. There's a subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. If you're not sure, there's more content you can watch before you make that all-powerful decision of clicking the red bell and making it go dark. There's also a bell that's just about as fickle as a pregnant woman in a candy aisle when she's got a craving or she's hungry. And because it only works whenever it feels like it. But the bell's there. In the description below is all the ways that you can support this channel, as well as links to blogs and other channels and so on and so forth. So, until next time, guys, Take care of yourselves.